Anthony Hicks stands frozen as Draconis Mistress Hera approaches him with the control key to his neural restraint collar. Her iridescent emerald scales catch the dim light of her private quarters aboard the Draconis flagship Dominator. 7 feet of reptilian power, she towers over his muscular 6-foot frame, yet there's hesitation in her violet eyes. "I know what you are," Hera whispers, her clawed hand reaching for the device at his neck. Not just any human, something else entirely. The collar that suppressed his enhanced abilities for 3 years clicks open. Anthony feels his true strength flood back, the secret power the Prometheus Initiative had engineered into his cells. The power that had remained hidden even as Earth fell to the Draconis invasion in 2157, even as Earth's most decorated Special Forces commander was captured and sold at auction to become this alien female's pleasure slave. Anthony rolls his shoulders, feeling muscles respond with superhuman precision. "You shouldn't have done that." His voice emerges deeper than it has in years, no longer modulated by the restraint technology. Hera steps back, her scaled tail flicking with nervous energy. "The Supreme Commander plans to harvest your entire species for genetic experimentation before complete extermination. I couldn't," she pauses, reptilian features contorting in what Anthony has learned to recognize as distress. "I couldn't let that happen to you." The alarm system suddenly blares, bathing the luxurious quarters in pulsing red light. Someone has detected the deactivation of his collar. "There's a scout ship in my private hangar," Hera says, moving with unexpected speed to a wall panel. She presses her scaled palm against it, revealing a hidden passage. "You must go now." Anthony doesn't move. "Why are you doing this? Betraying your kind?" Hera's violet eyes lock onto his. "I've watched you for months. Your resilience, your intelligence, you are different from other humans. The way you move, even restrained, I suspected the Draconis assessments of human capabilities were wrong." Anthony crosses the room in a blur of motion that makes Hera's eyes widen. No Draconis could move that fast. He stops inches from her, close enough that she can feel the heat radiating from his skin. "The Prometheus Initiative," he says, watching her reaction. 50 of us. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, healing. Kept secret even from most of Earth's military. The perfect soldiers until your people came with superior numbers and technology." Hera's scaled hand reaches out, touching his arm with unexpected gentleness. Anthony tenses but doesn't pull away. The electric charge between them present since she first purchased him at that degrading auction intensifies. "The ship's database," she says. "It contains information on all human prisoners throughout our empire. If others like you exist." "They do," Anthony confirms. "Captured, collared, their abilities suppressed. If I could free them," the alarm pitch changes, becoming more urgent. Footsteps pound in the corridor outside. "Come with me," Anthony says suddenly, surprising himself. Hera stares at him, her hand still on his arm. The attraction between them defies logic. Human and reptilian, captor and captive, different species from different worlds. Yet neither can deny the pull. "If I go with you, I'm committing treason against my entire species," she whispers. Anthony nods. "And I'm trusting the enemy who kept me as a slave for 3 years. Hera's scaled form shifts closer to his human one, biological differences momentarily irrelevant as her eyes search his face. "They'll execute me if I stay," she admits. The door to her quarters shudders under heavy impact. The security override has begun. Anthony extends his hand. "Then we have about 30 seconds to decide the fate of 2 species." Hera's hand tightened around Anthony's offered palm, her scales cool against his skin. "Decision made," she said, pulling a small crystal device from beneath her ceremonial collar and inserting it into a wall terminal. Her claws clicked rapidly across the interface. "Downloading strategic intelligence, fleet positions, defense protocols, command codes, everything I can access." Anthony moved to the door, pressing his ear against it. The pounding intensified, metal groaning under systematic impacts. They're using a battering ram, 2 minutes at most. Hera extracted the glowing data crystal. This information will die with me if we're captured. Then we don't get captured. Anthony surveyed the room, his enhanced vision cataloging potential weapons. He selected a ceremonial blade from Hera's wall display, testing its weight. His muscles responded with perfect Balancino tremor, no hesitation. The collar's removal had unleashed what the Prometheus initiative had built him to be. Hera activated the hidden passage, revealing a narrow corridor bathed in blue light. This way. They moved swiftly through the passage, Anthony noting every junction and security feature with military precision. His mind mapped their route, calculating contingencies if they encountered resistance. The hangar requires my biometric authorization, Hera explained as they reached a sealed door. After this point, we're committed. The system will register my access. Anthony nodded. Do it. Hera pressed her palm to the scanner. The door slid open, revealing a private hangar containing a sleek scout vessel. Impressive, Anthony said, approaching the ship. Its design was predatory, all sharp angles and matte black surfaces that seemed to absorb light. Range. Sufficient to reach your solar system's outer planets, Hera replied, moving to a console. I'm disabling security protocols. You have 90 seconds to deactivate the ship's tracking systems before the override triggers an alert. Anthony entered the vessel, his hands moving with inhuman speed across the unfamiliar controls. The Draconis interface responded to his touch, displays illuminating with alien script. He located the tracking module and accessed its core functions. Found it, he called out, ripping open a panel beneath the navigation console. Inside, a glowing network of crystalline circuits pulsed with energy. Anthony identified the tracking nodia, red hexagonal componentan severed its connections. Hera entered the ship as the hangar lights shifted to alert status. They've detected the security breach. Launching now. The ship's engines engaged with a low hum. Hera took the pilot's position, her scaled hands manipulating the controls. Anthony secured himself in the adjacent seat as the hangar doors slid open, revealing the void of space beyond. The scout ship shot forward, clearing the Dominator's hangar bay seconds before emergency barriers activated. Anthony watched through the viewscreen as they accelerated away from the massive Draconis flagship. We have company, he said, noting multiple signals appearing on the tactical display. Interceptors launching from the main bay. Hera's expression hardened. Dracus. She spat the name. He suspected my weakness for you. He's ordered pursuit personally. The ship rocked as energy weapons fire passed nearby. Anthony studied the flight controls, his enhanced mind processing the alien interface with remarkable speed. Let me fly, he said. Hera hesitated, then vacated the pilot's seat. Anthony took control, his fingers dancing across the interface with precision that made her violet eyes widen. Impossible, she whispered as he executed a series of maneuvers that sent the small craft spinning between incoming fire. Anthony adjusted course toward a nearby asteroid field. The Prometheus initiative didn't just enhance our strength. Neural processing, reaction time, spatial awareness, they rebuilt us from the cellular level up. The pursuing interceptors formed a pincer formation, attempting to herd their ship away from the asteroids. Anthony anticipated the tactic, abruptly cutting power and dropping the ship into a controlled freefall before re-engaging thrusters at an impossible angle. 2 interceptors collided in their attempt to adjust course. How many? Hera asked, watching him perform maneuvers no Draconis pilot could match. 37 of us. Anthony guided the ship deep into the asteroid field, using the natural cover to break pursuit vectors. We were the last generation. Earth fell before they could produce more. A massive asteroid loomed ahead. Anthony accelerated toward it rather than away, flying directly at its cratered surface before executing a last-second maneuver that skimmed them along the rock face. Behind them, An interceptor failed to adjust in time, erupting into a spray of debris. Each of us was specialized, Anthony continued, his voice steady despite the high-G maneuvers. My modifications emphasized neural speed, muscle density, cellular regeneration. I can heal from injuries that would kill normal humans. Hera studied him with newfound understanding. That's why you survived the conditioning that killed other human slaves. Once clear of the asteroid field, Anthony plotted a course toward Earth's moon, Luna Base. It was reported destroyed during the invasion, but it was actually converted to a hidden facility. Intelligence suggested at least 3 Prometheus soldiers might be held there in stasis. Warning indicators flashed across the console. We've taken damage to the propulsion system, Hera reported, examining the diagnostics. Port thruster failing. Anthony adjusted their trajectory, compensating for the imbalance. We can make Luna, but it'll be rough. The moon grew larger in their view screen, its scarred surface a testament to ancient impacts and human colonization efforts now abandoned. Anthony guided their damaged vessel into lunar orbit, fighting the increasingly unresponsive controls. Mercrisium, he said, indicating their landing zone. It's hundreds of kilometers from the base, but it offers cover for our approach. The ship shuddered as they entered the thin lunar atmosphere, temperature warnings blaring across the console. Anthony fought for control as the vessel bucked and pitched. Brace for impact, he warned, seconds before they struck the lunar surface. The scout ship skidded across regolith, carving a deep furrow before coming to rest against a crater wall. Impact foam deployed throughout the cabin, encasing both occupants in protective cocoons that dissolved once the ship settled. Anthony checked Hera for injuries. A thin line of dark fluid leaked from a cut on her scaled forehead, but she appeared otherwise unharmed. Status? She asked, her voice strained. Ship's crippled, Anthony replied, assessing the damage reports. Life support intact, but we're not flying out of here. He moved to a storage compartment, retrieving emergency equipment. We need to salvage what we can and move. Dracus will have tracked our descent path. Hera accessed the ship's communication array. I'm detecting faint transmissions from Luna Base. It's been partially reactivated. Anthony paused. Reactivated by whom? Your language, she replied, adjusting the signal. But the encryption is Draconis military grade. He joined her at the console, listening to the fragmented transmission. A cold dread settled in his stomach as he recognized specific terminology in the broken message. Those are research protocols, Hera confirmed. Biological experimentation. Anthony's enhanced hearing detected another pattern beneath the technical jargon, rhythmic, barely audible sounds. That's Morse code, he said, focusing on the subtle clicks, hidden in the background transmission. He translated the pattern TORRES, ELENA, Prometheus. Tors, he whispered. Sergeant Elena Tors. She was one of us. Hera gathered survival gear from the ship's emergency stores. We need to move quickly. This region experiences extreme temperature fluctuations. Anthony constructed makeshift equipment from damaged ship components, environmental shields, navigation tools, weapons from structural elements. The journey will take approximately 30 hours on foot, he calculated, securing a portable oxygen supply to his back. Limited exposure to vacuum between pressurized rest points. They sealed their environmental suits and exited the damaged vessel into the stark lunar landscape. Overhead, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black sky, its surface partly obscured by Draconis orbital platforms. Anthony set a steady pace across the powdery regolith, each footstep leaving a perfect imprint in the undisturbed surface. Hera moved alongside him, her Draconis physiology better adapted to the low gravity. They'll follow our trail, she noted, looking back at their footprints stretching to the horizon. I'm counting on it, Anthony replied. We need to reach Tors before they reach us. Us. Anthony quickened his pace, scanning the horizon with enhanced vision that picked up minute heat signatures against the cold lunar surface. The first indication of pursuit came 3 hours into their journey, a distant flash of light from their crash site. Anthony dropped to a crouch, pulling Hera down beside him. "Draconis Recovery Team," he whispered, his augmented eyesight identifying the distinctive silhouettes of combat armor. "Commander Vex leading personally. 5 elite hunters." Hera's breath caught. Vex never leads ground operations himself. Dracus must have ordered him to retrieve us at any cost. They continued their trek across the lunar landscape, using crater formations for cover when possible. The hunting party gained ground steadily, their specialized equipment compensating for the trail of footprints stretching across the powdery regolith. "We need to change tactics," Anthony said, studying a rocky outcropping ahead. "I count 3 separate approaches to that formation, perfect for an ambush." Hera's violet eyes widened. "You want to engage them, that's suicide. We need their equipment and access codes to infiltrate Luna Base," Anthony replied, already adjusting their course. "And we can't outrun them forever." They reached the outcropping, and Anthony quickly assessed the terrain. Low gravity made the lunar surface ideal for the combat techniques his body had been engineered to execute. He positioned Hera at the highest point with a clear line of sight. "When they enter the killing zone, target their communication array first," he instructed, handing her the ceremonial blade he'd taken from her quarters. "I'll draw their fire." Minutes later, the hunting party appeared, moving in precise formation across the dusty plain. Anthony waited until they entered the narrow passage between 2 rock formations, then triggered a cascade of loose boulders with a precisely aimed shot from an improvised launcher. The distraction worked. As the Draconis soldiers scattered, Anthony launched himself into the air, his body moving with inhuman precision. In lunar gravity, his jump carried him 20 meters, directly into the center of their formation. His mind shifted, neural implants activating dormant combat protocols. The world slowed around him as his processing speed accelerated. He could predict each hunter's movements seconds before they occurred, reading minute muscle tensions and environmental positioning. The first hunter fired a plasma weapon that Anthony sidestepped with millimeters to spare. He grabbed the superheated barrel, using the hunter's momentum to swing him into his companion. Both Draconis soldiers tumbled backward. Anthony's perception heightened further. He noted the pattern of a third hunter's breathing, calculating the exact moment to strike. As the soldier exhaled, Anthony delivered a precise blow to the neural cluster at the base of the Draconis skull, instantly rendering him unconscious. From her elevated position, Hera descended with startling agility. Her ceremonial plasma staff ignited with a brilliant blue glow as she engaged the 4th hunter. She moved with lethal grace, her lifetime of military training evident in every strike. The hunter attempted to call for reinforcements, but Hera's staff severed his communications array with surgical precision. "Behind you," Anthony called out, already moving to intercept the 5th hunter. Commander Vex himself emerged from behind a rock formation, his massive frame encased in elaborate combat armor. He carried a heavy pulse cannon capable of vaporizing human tissue on contact. "Traitor," Vex snarled at Hera, his reptilian features contorting with rage. "Consorting with slave species. Your lineage will be purged from our genetic records." Hera blocked his first shot with her staff, the energy dissipating across its crystalline surface. "Our slave species fights with more honor than you ever showed, Vex." Anthony circled behind the commander, calculating trajectories and points of weakness in the armor. He executed a series of acrobatic maneuvers impossible on Earth, leaping from rock to rock with precision that kept Vex's targeting systems constantly recalibrating. Vex tracked Anthony's movement, but hesitated when Hera stepped into his line of fire. The momentary recognition in his eyes split-second acknowledgement of her high rank in Draconis, society gave Anthony the opening he needed. He dropped from above, firing a precisely aimed shot at the neural cluster visible between Vex's helmet and shoulder guard. The commander staggered, his massive form dropping to one knee. "Don't kill him," Anthony instructed as Hera prepared a final strike. "We need his command codes and biometric signature." They bound the unconscious commander securely, Anthony working quickly to extract data from Vex's tactical systems. The information displayed across his portable scanner made his blood run cold. "Science Director Lysithea has accelerated her experimental timeline," he reported, scrolling through encrypted files. "Tors and Roberts are still alive but weakened from repeated tissue extractions." Hera studied the data over his shoulder. "They've captured another one, Lieutenant Jackson Reed. Australian resistance," Anthony confirmed, memories of his fellow Prometheus soldier surfacing. "One of the best infiltration specialists in the program." He downloaded the security protocols and facility schematics, forming a plan as the data streamed into his enhanced memory. "We use Vex's clearance to enter Luna Base," Anthony decided, stripping the commander of his tactical gear. "I'll pose as your recaptured slave. You claim you're seeking reinstatement after capturing your escaped property." Hera nodded, understanding the strategy. "Lysithea will be suspicious, but she won't refuse a new Prometheus specimen, especially with my endorsement." They salvaged essential equipment from the hunting party and set course toward an abandoned mining outpost marked on the facility schematics. The structure would provide temporary shelter and a place to recover before the final approach to Luna Base. The outpost appeared on the horizon's 6 hours ladder, a collection of dome structures nestled against a crater wall. Although powered down, its environmental system still functioned on backup reserves. Inside, Anthony activated the minimal life support while Hera secured their perimeter. The air cycled through filters, temperature rising to tolerable levels. "We should rest while we can," Anthony said, checking Vex's restraints one final time. The commander remained unconscious, his vital signs stable but subdued. 4 hours, then we move." Hera approached him, her movements deliberate. "You're injured." She gestured to a laceration across his shoulder, the wound already clotting with enhanced efficiency. "It'll heal." Anthony began removing his environmental suit, wincing as the material pulled away from dried blood. "Your reflexes saved us back there. I've never seen anyone handle a plasma staff with that precision." Hera set aside her own protective gear, revealing the iridescent scales covering her form. In the dim emergency lighting, they shifted with subtle blues and purples. "Allow me," she said, retrieving medical supplies from their salvaged equipment. Her clawed fingers moved with unexpected gentleness across his wounded shoulder. "The Prometheus initiative made us difficult to kill," Anthony explained, feeling the familiar tingling as his enhanced cellular structures regenerated. "Each of us specialized. Tors has sensory processing capabilities beyond anything I can do." Hera's touch lingered on his skin. "Your neural chemistry is remarkable. The same modifications that accelerate your combat reflexes enhance your healing." Anthony noticed a dark fluid seeping from between scales along her side. "You're wounded too." She dismissed his concern. "Minor, nothing vital was damaged." Despite her protest, Anthony moved closer, examining the injury. "Plasma burn. It needs treatment or the scales won't regrow properly." His fingers touched the edges of her wound, applying regenerative compound from their medical supplies. Hera inhaled sharply at the contact, her scales flushing with sudden heat. "I'm sorry," Anthony withdrew his hand. "Did I hurt you?" "No," she replied, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it. "Our neural pathways are concentrated near the scale beds. Your touch produces sensations I didn't anticipate." Anthony's hand hovered above her injury. "May I continue?" Her violet eyes held his gaze steadily. "Please." He resumed applying the compound, noting how her scales shifted in response to his touch, iridescent patterns flowing like liquid beneath his fingertips. The distinctive ridges along her spine pulsed with subtle bioluminescence. "Your species fascinates me," Hera admitted, watching his expression. "Even before I was assigned as your handler, I studied human physiology extensively." Anthony became acutely aware of their proximity, the strange intimacy of tending each other's wounds in this abandoned outpost. "What did you learn?" "That your adaptability is unmatched in any species we've encountered." Her clawed hand settled on his chest, directly over his heart. This organzo, seemingly vulnerable, yet so resilient. The moment stretched between them, biological differences temporarily irrelevant as understanding flowed between captor and captive, human and alien, now allies in a desperate mission. Hera's scaled form shifted closer. "The Draconis teach that humans are inferior, primitive, but that's not what I observed in you, not what I felt." Anthony's enhanced senses cataloged every detail of her subtle heat radiating from her scales, the complex patterns of her iris, the rhythm of her dual-chambered heart accelerating beneath his palm. "Hera," he began, uncertain of what boundaries existed between their species. She answered his unspoken question by pressing her forehead to his, an intimate gesture among her kind. "Some of my people believe this conflict is unnecessary, that our species could be stronger together than apart. Their bodies found unexpected harmony as ancient biological imperatives transcended the differences in their forms." Anthony discovered that the neural sensitivity making Draconis vulnerable to certain frequencies also heightened Hera's responses to his touch. Her iridescent scales flushed with heat as his fingers traced patterns along her spine. Afterward they lay together in the dim light of the outpost, the reality of their mission temporarily held at bay. "There's something I need to tell you," Hera said, her voice low, "about my people, about why I chose to help you." Anthony listened as she explained the Evolutionary Cooperation Alliance, a faction of Draconis who believed subjugating humans was counterproductive to both species' advancement. "My maternal aunt, scientific elder Thalassa, leads the movement," Hera explained. "She theorizes that human adaptability and ingenuity could complement Draconis' strength and longevity." "A resistance movement within your own ranks," Anthony observed. "I was gradually drawn into their network before meeting you," she admitted. "But my direct experience with you convinced me to take definitive action." Anthony processed this new information, considering its strategic implications. "If we rescue the Prometheus soldiers and establish contact with surviving human resistance," a sudden power surge interrupted him, emergency lights flaring to full brightness before dimming again. A rhythmic beeping emanated from a console in the corner of the room. "What's happening?" Hera asked, already reaching for her weapon. Anthony moved to the console, examining the ancient interfaces. The power surge triggered an automated distress beacon. "It's broadcasting on an old frequency. Can you disable it?" "Too late." Anthony pointed to a signal verification indicator. "Someone's already received the transmission." They quickly gathered their equipment, preparing for immediate departure. Anthony checked the portable scanner displaying Luna base schematics. "We need to move now," he said, helping Hera secure Vex for transport. "Lysithea will know something's wrong when Vex fails to report in." The scanner suddenly detected new signatures approaching their position not from Luna base, but from a concealed ravine 2 kilometers away. "More Draconis hunters?" Hera asked, adjusting her plasma staff. Anthony studied the readings, his enhanced vision detecting anomalies in the approaching signals. "No, these signatures are different. Human technology but heavily modified. They positioned themselves defensively as the unknown contacts drew closer." Anthony readied his weapon, calculating optimal firing positions. The first figure that appeared wore patched toge, their environmental armor bearing faded Earth military insignia. Others followed, weapons trained on the outpost entrance. Identification protocols, a voice crackled through external speakers. Authenticate or we will open fire. Anthony recognized the challenge formata military recognition code from Earth's fallen defense forces. He replied with his own authentication sequence, including his Prometheus designation. The lead figure lowered his weapon slightly, approaching with caution. Prometheus soldier, verified. Captain Anthony Valdez, Prometheus Initiative, Special Tactics Division, Anthony confirmed, keeping Hera partially behind him. The figure removed his helmet, revealing a weathered face with a scar running from temple to jaw. Captain Samuel Rivera, Ember Dawn Resistance, commanding officer of the vessel Defiance. His eyes fixed on Hera, weapon raising again. Why is there a living Draconis officer with you? Anthony stepped between them. She's with me, allied. Rivera's team maintained their aim, clearly unconvinced. No such thing as a friendly Draconis, one soldier spat. Hera moved forward, hands visible. I've defected. I have information about Draconis fleet movements, defensive capabilities, and the experiments at Luna Base. She accessed the data crystal containing the intelligence she downloaded before their escape. Verify the authenticity yourself. Rivera hesitated, then gestured to a technician who connected the crystal to a portable reader. The information displayed across the screen made the captain's eyes widen. This is current command protocols, he said, voice hushed. Fleet positioning, security algorithms. And I can provide more, Hera added. Including how to infiltrate Luna Base where 3 Prometheus soldiers are being held. Rivera studied them both, calculation evident in his expression. We detected your distress signal. Been monitoring all lunar communications for months. He gestured to the vessel partially visible behind a ridge. We have limited stealth capabilities. Been conducting small operations when possible. How many of you survived? Anthony asked. Defiance is one of 27 vessels that escaped Earth's fall, Rivera explained. We're scattered across the solar system. Main base is hidden in the asteroid belt, disguised as mining operations. Anthony nodded toward Luna Base's direction. We have intelligence that Science Director Lysithea is accelerating her experimental timeline. The Prometheus soldiers may only have hours left. Rivera conferred briefly with his team before turning back to Anthony and Hera. We've been gathering intelligence, conducting sabotage when possible, but we've lacked the firepower to strike directly at Draconis operations. He gestured toward their captured commander. Until now. Anthony quickly outlined their original infiltration plan, which Rivera assessed with professional scrutiny. Too risky as a frontal approach, the captain concluded. But with our vessel's stealth technology and the schematics you've acquired, we can breach through this emergency access tunnel. He indicated a point on the displayed map. Together, they formulated a new strategy, incorporating Rivera's team's capabilities with Anthony and Hera's intelligence. Time was critical. Lysithea's accelerated timeline meant they needed to move immediately. The combined team boarded the Defiance, retrofitted pre-invasion cargo hauler modified for stealth operations. The vessel lifted off, engines barely audible as they powered toward Luna Base using a dark side approach to avoid detection. In a cramped maintenance compartment offering the only privacy aboard the crowded ship, Anthony and Hera shared a final moment before deployment. Whatever happens at Luna Base, Anthony said quietly, what's between us has changed everything I thought I knew about your species. Hera's scaled hand clasped his. And you've shown me why some of my people believe humans are worth saving. Their connection had evolved beyond strategic alliance into something neither had anticipated, a bond transcending the biological differences between their forms and the conflict between their species. The ship's alert system suddenly blared, interrupting their moment. They rushed to the bridge where Rivera stood staring at a tactical display. "Draconis battlecruiser just entered lunar orbit," he reported grimly. "It's the Annihilator Dracus's personal flagship. The massive warship appeared on their sensors, its weapon systems capable of vaporizing the entire lunar facility in seconds." "He's come personally," Hera whispered, scales paling. "No commander has ever shown such interest in a single escaped slave." Anthony studied the battlecruiser's position relative to Luna Base. "He's not here for me, he's here for you. Your betrayal represents a threat to their entire power structure." Rivera adjusted their approach vector, using lunar mountains to shield them from the battlecruiser's sensors. "We have one shot at this. Once we're detected, that thing will turn us to vapor." The stakes had escalated beyond the rescue of 3 Prometheus soldiers. With Dracus personally overseeing the operation, the implications extended to the entire human resistance, seemed possibly to the fate of both species. As the Defiance approached the hidden access point to Luna Base, Anthony prepared his equipment for infiltration. The presence of the Annihilator had changed everything, compressing their timeline and multiplying the threats. "We stick to the plan," he told the assembled team. "Get in, extract the Prometheus soldiers, get out. If we're compromised, the secondary team destroys the research data and initiates facility purge." Rivera nodded grimly. "Approaching entry point in 3 minutes. Prepare for insertion. Approaching entry point in 3 minutes. Prepare for immediate deployment." The Defiance slowed as it approached Luna Base, using the jagged lunar mountains as cover from the Annihilator's scanning arrays. Anthony checked his equipment, one final time plasma rifle charged, neural disruptor calibrated, tactical implants running at optimal levels. Beside him, Hera adjusted her plasma staff, her scales shifting subtly from their natural iridescence to a muted gray that would blend better in the facility's corridors. "Split into formations as planned," Rivera instructed, addressing the assembled team. "Tactical Unit Alpha will accompany Captain Valdez and Officer Hera through the emergency access tunnel. Beta Unit initiates the northern quadrant diversion. Gamma Unit targets the communications array." Elena Torres, a dark-haired woman with the characteristic lean muscle of a Prometheus soldier, approached. Anthony recognized her immediately from mission briefings. Her enhancement specialization was sensory processing, allowing her to detect threats beyond normal human perception. "Your extraction target is on sublevel 7, Rivera continued, displaying holographic schematics. "We hold position 17 minutes max. After that, we're overrun or vaporized." Anthony nodded. "Understood." Rivera's technician handed him a small device. Commander Vex's biometric signature, extracted during interrogation. It'll bypass the first security layers. The ship settled into position near a concealed maintenance hatch. As the teams filed toward the airlock, Anthony caught Hera studying him. "What?" he asked. "Your neural patterns show pre-combat synchronization," she observed. "Your Prometheus enhancements activate even before conscious thought." Anthony hadn't realized she could sense such subtleties. Years of conditioning. The airlock cycled, and the teams deployed across lunar regolith. Anthony led Alpha Unit toward the emergency tunnel entrance, a forgotten service passage dating back to the original lunar colonization, before the Draconis invasion. The entrance appeared long abandoned, lunar dust undisturbed, until their boots pressed into it. Anthony applied Commander Vex's biometric signature to the access panel. The ancient door slid open with a hiss of equalized pressure. "First checkpoint clear," he whispered into his comm. The tunnel stretched before them, cramped and dark, illuminated only by their tactical lights and Hera's subtle bioluminescence. They moved in synchronized silence, Anthony and Hera in perfect tandem at the front. Years of combat experience had taught him the value of silent communication, but with Hera, it felt different, as if their bodies naturally understood each other's intentions. At the second checkpoint, Anthony again applied Vex's signature. The door opened to reveal a maintenance corridor leading deeper into Luna Base. "Third checkpoint ahead," Hera murmured. "Manned station beyond this point." Anthony signaled the team to halt, then approached the security door with Hera. She placed her scaled hand on the scanner while Anthony applied Vex's biometric data. For a tense moment, nothing happened, then green lights flashed across the panel. "We're in," Anthony whispered. The corridor beyond revealed the first signs of active Draconis Presencepalist metal surfaces, atmospheric regulators calibrated to their physiological preferences. The team advanced cautiously, using service passages to avoid patrols. "Rivera to Alpha Team," came the captain's voice over comms. "Diversion initiating in 3, 2, 1. A distant explosion rocked the facility. Alarm klaxons blared as automated announcements in the Draconis language echoed through the corridors. "Diversion successful," Rivera reported. "Security forces responding. You have your window." Anthony led the team deeper into the facility, following Hera's guidance through less monitored passages. As they descended to the lower levels, a sickly sweet odor permeated the air. "Nutrient solution," Hera explained, noticing Anthony's reaction. "For the processing chambers." They turned a corner and encountered a sight that stopped Anthony cold. Rows of transparent chambers filled a massive room, each containing a suspended human form. Tubes and wires connected to their skulls and spinal columns fed into central collection units. "Neural harvesting," Hera whispered. "They're extracting cognitive patterns, memory structures, sensory processing algorithms, anything that might explain human adaptability." Anthony stared at the nearest subject, a young woman, eyes partially open but unseeing. The scene triggered an instant flashback. His own body suspended in a similar tank, burning pain as nanomachines rewrote his genetic code, the sensation of foreign components grafting onto his nervous system. His heart rate spiked, breath catching in his throat. A scaled hand touched his forearm. Hera stood beside him, her eyes meeting his. The physical contact anchored him, drawing him back from the memory. "Focus," she said softly. "We can't help them all right now." Anthony nodded, centering himself. "Sublevel 7, let's move." They advanced through the facility, Rivera's periodic updates counting down their window of opportunity. 12 minutes remaining, Rivera reported. "They've deployed sonic disruptors." "We're holding, but not for long." Hera led them to a secure elevator shaft. "This accesses the research levels. Lysithia's laboratory will be at the bottom level." They descended using maintenance ladders alongside the shaft, avoiding the monitored elevators. The air grew noticeably cooler, the Draconis preference for lower temperatures more pronounced in the research levels. At sublevel 7, they encountered their first major obstacleite Draconis warriors guarding an ornate entrance. Unlike standard soldiers, these guards bore the distinctive cranial ridges of elite warriors. "We can't engage without triggering facility-wide alerts," Anthony whispered. Hera assessed the situation, then straightened her posture, adjusting her uniform to emphasize her command insignia. "Follow my lead," she instructed. "Act submissive." Before Anthony could object, she stepped into the corridor, dragging him roughly by the arm. She addressed the guards in the Draconis language, her tone commanding. Anthony understood enough to recognize she was claiming to deliver him for Lysithia's research. The guards hesitated, weapons lowered but not holstered. Hera continued speaking, her posture radiating authority. The lead guard stepped forward, examining Anthony suspiciously. Anthony activated his Prometheus combat protocols. Time seemed to slow as his enhanced nervous system accelerated to peak efficiency. He moved in a blur of precision, violence disarming the lead guard, using the captured weapon to neutralize 2 others, then flowing through the remaining 5 with economical movements that targeted vulnerable nerve clusters. In 12 seconds, all 8 guards lay unconscious or incapacitated, without a single alarm triggered. Hera entered her access code on the laboratory door. "Impressive execution," she noted as the door slid open. The laboratory beyond exceeded even Anthony's worst expectations. Alina Torres and Marcus Roberts hung suspended in specialized containment units, their bodies bearing the unmistakable marks of extensive experimentation incision patterns on their skulls, biometric sensors embedded in their skin, evidence of repeated tissue sampling. At the center of the room, Lieutenant Jackson Reed lay strapped to an operating table, neural probes inserted into his exposed brain tissue. Science Director Lysithea stood over him, her tall form draped in a laboratory coat, white scales gleaming under the harsh lights. The purity of her coloration marked her as Draconis aristocracia, direct descendant of the original colonization fleet. She turned at their entrance, yellow eyes widening at the sight of Hera. "Handler Hera," she said in English, her voice precisely modulated. "This is unexpected." In a fluid motion, Lysithea activated a personal shield and pressed a concealed button on her workstation. Anthony moved immediately, engaging the 4 Draconis guards who emerged from adjacent rooms. His Prometheus enhancements allowed him to perceive their movements as if in slow motion, countering their superior strength with precision strikes to vulnerable points in their anatomy. Hera headed directly for the containment units, bypassing Lysithea to reach the control terminals. Her fingers flew across the panels, initiating emergency release protocols. Anthony dispatched the guards with methodical efficiency, his augmented reflexes allowing him to anticipate and counter their coordinated attacks. The last guard fell as Tor's containment unit hissed open, fluid draining around her unconscious form. Lysithea backed toward an exit, clutching a data crystal. "Your obsession with humans has corrupted you, Hera." "The Supreme Commander will." Hera intercepted her retreat, moving with a speed that surprised even Anthony. "You always underestimated other lineages, Lysithea." The 2 Draconis females circled each other, Lysithea protected by her shield but clearly unaccustomed to direct combat. Hera attacked with precise strikes aimed at the shield generator on Lysithea's belt. The scientist attempted to counter, but her movements lacked Hera's combat experience. "Your unnatural obsession with a human slave has destroyed your career," Lysithea taunted. "What would your ancestral line say about such degradation?" Hera responded not with words but with a blindingly fast combination, disabling the shield generator with her first blow, and following with a precision strike to Lysithea's secondary nervous cluster. The scientist collapsed, temporarily paralyzed but conscious. Anthony moved to Tor's side as she regained consciousness, her eyes darting wildly until they focused on his face. "Prometheus Initiative," he said quickly. "Captain Anthony Valdez, we're extracting you." Torres assessed him with the rapid calculation characteristic of Prometheus operatives. Alina Torres, sensory specialist, Roberts and Reed, working on them now. Anthony helped her stand as Hera released Roberts from his containment unit. The technological specialist regained consciousness rapidly, his first words addressing the operational situation. "Security status. Northern diversion ongoing," Anthony explained. "Limited window for extraction." Reed proved more challenging. The neural probes had been directly interfacing with his brain tissue. Torres, despite her weakened state, assisted in removing them safely while Anthony accessed Lysithea's research terminal. What he found made his blood run cold. "Hera," he called urgently. "Lysithea's been transmitting directly to Dracus." Hera joined him at the terminal, her eyes scanning the data. "The genetic extinction protocol," she whispered. "They've developed a bioweapon targeting specific human DNA sequences." Anthony checked the deployment timetable, 7 to 2 hours until launch. Their comm units crackled with Rivera's voice. "Alpha Team, we're taking heavy casualties. Can't maintain position beyond 3 minutes. Extraction status." Anthony surveyed the laboratory tours, helping Reed to his feet, Roberts accessing additional data terminals, Lysithea secured and unconscious. Targets acquired, but we've uncovered critical intelligence, Anthony reported. Need additional time to extract. Negative, Rivera responded, weapons fire audible in the background. Facility initiating lockdown protocols. Alternative extraction route required. Hera stepped forward. Lysithea's private shuttle bay, Level 4, East Quadrant. Her research vessel has advanced stealth capabilities. Transmitting coordinates, Anthony confirmed. As they prepared to move, the facility's lighting shifted to emergency proto-Kalsrid warning lights bathing the laboratory in crimson illumination. Roberts, now connected to the main terminal, looked up with alarm. The Annihilator has moved into attack position. Dracus has ordered precision strikes on the facility. Anthony assessed their options rapidly. Tors, can you navigate alternative routes with your sensory enhancements? The female Prometheus soldier nodded. Thermal variations indicate maintenance tunnels parallel to the main corridors, less defended. Lead the way, Anthony ordered. We move now. Lead the way, Anthony ordered. We move now. Tors took point, her enhanced senses detecting thermal variations through the facility walls. She guided them into a maintenance access panel that most would have overlooked completely. This connects to the thermal regulation network, she explained, removing the panel with practiced efficiency. Less defended, minimal surveillance. The narrow tunnel beyond barely accommodated their frames. Anthony followed Tors, with Roberts assisting Reed, who still showed signs of neural disruption from Lysithea's procedures. Hera brought up the rear, dragging the unconscious Draconis scientist. As they navigated the cramped maintenance shafts, the distant sounds of combat echoed through the structure. Rivera's diversion still drawing attention, but clearly faltering. The occasional facility-wide announcements in the Draconis language grew more urgent. Tors halted at an intersection, her head tilted as she processed sensory information beyond normal human capacity. Security forces converging on the northern entrance. We have approximately 7 minutes before they secure this quadrant. Anthony checked the tactical display on his wrist computer. Lysithea's shuttle bay. Hera pointed toward a descending shaft. 3 levels down, East Quadrant. The research vessel requires high-security clearance. Which we have, Anthony replied, gesturing to the unconscious scientist. They descended rapidly, using Robert's tech skills to bypass 2 security checkpoints. The journey through the maintenance system exposed them to extreme temperature variations, frigid, cold in some sections, where Draconis environmental preferences dominated, sweltering heat in others where machinery generated excess thermal energy. When they finally reached the access point for the shuttle bay, Reed's condition had deteriorated. The lieutenant leaned heavily against Roberts, his breathing labored. His neural pathways are destabilizing, Tors observed, her enhanced vision detecting subtle changes in Reed's circulatory patterns. Lysithea's probes caused cascading damage. Anthony assessed their options rapidly. Roberts, can you get us into that shuttle? The tech specialist examined the security panel. With Lysithea's biometrics, yes, but navigating the defensive grid requires command-oval clearance. We have that too, Hera said, producing a small data crystal from a hidden compartment in her uniform. Emergency protocols. All handlers are issued command overrides in case of facility compromise. Tors suddenly stiffened, her head snapping toward the main corridor. Multiple hostiles approaching. Heavy weapons, 40 seconds. Anthony made his decision. Tors help Reed. Roberts prepare for immediate launch once we're aboard. Hera and I will handle the security system. They moved with practiced coordination, dragging Lysithea to the security panel. Hera pressed the scientist's hand against the biometric scanner, while Anthony inserted her command crystal into the adjacent port. The shuttle bay doors slid open, revealing a sleek Draconis research vessel smaller than military craft, but clearly built for speed and stealth. Its obsidian hull absorbed rather than reflected the bay's lighting. Activating pre-launch sequence, Roberts announced, interfacing with the vessel's external systems. Defensive grid still active, will be targeted the moment we attempt departure. A barrage of weapons fire erupted from the corridor as Draconis security forces reached their position. Anthony pushed Tors and Reed toward the shuttle while returning fire with precise bursts. "Get aboard," he shouted. "Hera, defense grid." Hera accessed the bay's control terminal, her fingers moving with remarkable speed across the alien interface. Grid command requires senior authorization, using Lysithea's access now. The defense grid indicators began cycling from red to amber, partially disabled but not completely neutralized. More security forces converged on their position, pinning Anthony behind minimal cover as he provided covering fire. "Grid at 40% capacity," Hera called. "Best I can do without full command authorization." "It'll have to be enough," Anthony responded, executing a combat roll to reach the shuttle's boarding ramp. "Everyone aboard." Inside the vessel, Roberts had already initiated launch procedures. The shuttle's systems responded to Lysithea's biometric signature, displays illuminating with Draconis script. "Launch in 20 seconds, Roberts reported from the pilot's position. "Atmospheric shields active." Anthony secured Reed in an acceleration couch while Tors accessed the weapon systems. Hera joined Roberts at the controls, her familiarity with Draconis technology evident as she bypassed several security protocols. "Receiving facility-wide alert," she reported. "The Annihilator has fired on the northern quadrant, Rivera's team." She didn't need to finish. The implication was clear: Rivera's diversionary force had likely been neutralized. "Launch now," Anthony ordered. The shuttle disengaged from its moorings with a mechanical shudder. As it rose from the docking cradle, the remaining active defense turrets swiveled to track them, energy weapons charging. "Evasive pattern Delta," Anthony called to Roberts. "Tors, suppressive fire on those turrets." The shuttle banked sharply as the first energy beams lanced toward them. Tors responded with the vessel's defensive armaments, targeted bursts disabling 2 turrets before the third scored a glancing hit on their port side. "Shield integrity at 70%, Roberts reported, his fingers dancing across the controls. "Engaging emergency thrust." The shuttle accelerated violently through the bay's atmospheric barrier, emerging into lunar orbit as alarms blared throughout the craft. Behind them, the Luna base defense system fully activated, tracking their escape vector. "Multiple pursuit craft launching," Hera warned, monitoring the tactical display. "Interceptors, heavy weaponry." Anthony moved to the navigation console. "We need somewhere to regroup, assess this intelligence." He gestured to the data crystal containing the details of the genetic extinction protocol, "and we need to contact any remaining resistant cells." Reed stirred from his medical couch, his voice weak but determined. "The asteroid mining outpost in the Jovian belt. Resistance maintains a hidden facility there." "Too far," Tors countered. "Reed needs immediate medical attention, and our pursuers will track us through any jump trajectory." Hera studied the navigational charts, then pointed to a small lunar feature. "There, abandoned mining facility on the far side. Pre-invasion human construction, minimal Draconis presence." Anthony considered their options as the first warning shots from pursuit craft flashed past their viewports. "Set course," he decided. "Roberts, can you mask our engine signature?" "Temporarily," the tech specialist confirmed. "But we'll need a more permanent solution." As the shuttle accelerated away from Luna base, Anthony examined the intelligence they'd recovered. The genetic extinction protocol represented an existential threat to humanidia, precisely targeted bioweapon, designed to eliminate humans while leaving Earth's infrastructure intact. The immediate pursuit gradually fell behind, as Roberts implemented a series of engine signature modifications, effectively creating false trails for their pursuers to follow. When they finally reached the abandoned mining facility, the shuttle's system showed no immediate threats. "We're clear for now," Torres reported, "but they'll expand their search patterns. We have hours at most." Anthony helped Reed to a makeshift medical station they established in the facility's old control room. The lieutenant's condition stabilized with emergency treatment, but his neural pathways showed significant damage from Lysithea's experiments. Roberts established a secure communication array while Torres set up a defensive perimeter. Hera worked with Anthony to analyze the data they'd recovered. "This is worse than we thought," she said quietly, examining the extinction protocol specifications. Lysithea's research indicates deployment preparations already underway, 7 to 2 hours until they release the bioweapon globally. Anthony studied the tactical situation their small team, limited resources, and the most powerful Draconis warship in the system hunting them. The odds appeared insurmountable. "What about Rivera's team?" Reed asked from his medical bed. "Any survivors?" Anthony checked the secure channels. "No communication. We have to assume they were neutralized." "So we're alone," Torres stated flatly. 4 humans and a Draconis defector against the entire occupation force." "Not necessarily," Hera interjected, her expression thoughtful. "There may be another option." She hesitated, then continued. "We could request direct communication with Supreme Commander Dracus." The human stared at her in stunned silence. "The architect of Earth's conquest?" Roberts finally asked. "The same Dracus who ordered the orbital bombardment of our major cities?" "Yes," Hera acknowledged. "But there's something you don't understand about Draconis politics. This extinction protocol represents a significant escalation beyond the initial conquest parameters. Not all Draconis leadership would support such measures." Anthony studied her carefully. "You're suggesting Dracus might oppose this weapon?" "It's possible," Hera replied. "The conquest was strategic, acquiring Earth's resources and testing ground for military expansion. But complete human extinction serves no practical purpose. It's wasteful, and waste is anathema to traditional Draconis military doctrine." Anthony considered this unexpected possibility. "How would we even establish contact?" "Through me," Hera explained. "My handler authorization codes can request direct communication with Supreme Command. Its risky transmission could be traced, but it might be our only option to prevent global extinction." The team fell silent, weighing their limited choices. Outside, the lunar landscape stretched in barren desolation, Earth partially visible on the horizon. Homeworld they fought to defend now hanging distant and vulnerable. After intense deliberation, Anthony made his decision. "Make the call," he told Hera, "but we prepare for every contingency."